Time is money and money is time, and nowhere is that more obvious across all entertainment than with video games. Discard the notion of a game needing to take 50 plus hours though, and there are scores of recommendable titles you can clock in an afternoon. Rare is the mix of ultra short design and actual quality, but that only means the cream of the crop is that more recommendable. I'm Scott from WhatCulture.com, and these are 11 incredible video games you can finish under an hour. Number 11, Kirbys Dreamland. The debut of Kirby came not on NES or home console in general, but on the Game Boy. Predating Kirby's adventure by a year, this 1992 platformer launched almost fully formed, lacking the innovative steal abilities from enemies mechanic that defined Kirby from here on out, but still letting you turn enemies into projectiles, alongside finding fire and bomb power-ups. Honestly, almost everything about Kirby to this day was cemented in his very first adventure. A gorgeous art style, that chirpy memorable theme tune, floaty optional flight to soar over some tricky enemies. Revisiting it now, Dreamland totally holds up. In true Nintendo fashion, they doggedly stick to what was laid out here for the rest of Kirby's history, but you can clock some genuine gaming royalty for just half an hour of pure platforming gold. Number 10, Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes. It was a strange release at the time, and the torture-based plot points therein have aged like milk, but Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes at least played incredibly well. The jury's out whether it was Hideo Kojima or Konami who wanted to siphon off what is almost the Phantom Pain's tutorial into its own release, but point being, you can easily clock this under an hour and gameplay is brilliant. Taking place entirely on one map, Ground Zeroes encourages all-out experimentation with its AI, vehicles and weapons to have the most fun. A neat detection mechanic lets you return fire and maintain no alerts if you get spotted, and all previous gadgets in the series like the Soliton radar have been removed. What you're left with is pure stealth, where your infiltration options and enemy beating tactics are as inventive as whatever you can think of. Don't get me wrong, the price point was absolutely at odds with how long this could be at the time, but pick it up today for a literal 10th of the cost and it's more than worth a playthrough. Number 9, Sayonara Wild Hearts, Album Arcade Mode. One of the shiniest gems of 2019, a stellar year for gaming dominated by Sekiro, Resident Evil 2, Death Stranding and Mortal Kombat 11, Sayonara Wild Hearts is a hypnotic, gorgeous rhythm game that beats you over the head with just how sublime its mix of music and gameplay is. Story-wise, you're someone who's lost their creative spark, getting lost in a world of neon colours, biker gang antagonists and martial arts to try and get it back. This allows the trio of composers Daniel Olsson and Jonathan Eng, plus Swedish singer Linnea Olsson, to craft a gorgeous pulsing synth-backed soundtrack that intertwines with these visuals for the entire runtime. Beating the game unlocks a mode where you play all songs in one giant playthrough without any interstitial scorecards, and it's this mode you'll want to replay over and over and over, coming in at just 56 minutes. A playable synth-pop album that is charm and goodwill personified, I cannot recommend Sayonara Wild Hearts enough, especially right now. Number 8, The Stanley Parable. Another game whose 100% completion stat is way over an hour if you want to see everything, Coffee Stain's The Stanley Parable was part of that early 2010s movement to blow the expectations of video game storytelling wide open. With BioShock's big twist setting the bar in the late 2000s, it was titles like this that made breaking the fourth wall a direct part of gameplay and narrative drive. The narrator tells you to go through a specific door, well, what if you went through the one next to it instead? There is a mystery to uncover in regards to why Stanley is lost alone in this facility, plonking away at a lonely keyboard, but this particular parable has 19 different endings, and the majority can be seen under an hour, with some being done in a few minutes. Number 7, Florence. Finally coming to Switch in February 2020, Florence is the simply structured, powerfully relatable tale of two people just trying to make a relationship work. Playing more like a digital comic or interacting with pieces of artwork, you'll eat, create an art project, and do other everyday tasks, but this also transitions into some memorable sequences where dialogue itself starts to fall apart, seeing Florence and her partner no longer getting along. It might not sound like much in an industry of Doom Eternals and God of Wars rounding out the best of the 8th generation, but Florence is a pretty damn stellar title from plan to execution, with sumptuous art design and a very emotional score backing everything up. Number 6, Star Fox 2. A game so ahead of its time, Nintendo canned it because the age of the 3D console was here and they just couldn't compete directly anymore. Star Fox 2 eventually dropped on the mini SNES and really was something to behold. Keep in mind we're talking about a game developed on a system designed for 2D graphics for a start, but Star Fox 2 made its combat far snappier and flashier. First-person dogfights are the order of the day, mixed with a neat future cop LAPD-style transformation into a mech to take on ground units like a third-person shooter. On top of all this, the structure of Star Fox 2 takes a few cues from strategy games, letting you choose how to manage your time between defending missile strikes, intercepting enemy forces, and when to strike specific bases. With the overworld moving in real time, you really have to stay on your toes, and while graphics are primitive as hell, the sheer ambition of this as a sequel in 1996 is genuinely staggering. Number 5. Balloon Fight. Sticking with Nintendo for a minute, yes, Balloon Fight is almost a straight copy of Joust, but it has some of the most enjoyably simplistic, replayable game mechanics ever. By switching your attacks from horizontal stabs like in Joust to popping enemy balloons by landing on them, Balloon Fight is pick up and play bliss. Its soundtrack and melodies are infectious, not to mention the level-beating groove when you win is funky as hell, and again, everything comes together so smoothly. For a game in 1986, that's all we could ask for, but you can see all 12 levels in one hell of an under 1 hour rush. Number 4. Flower. The second game from the genius mind of Genova Chen, who would go on to make Journey and Sky Children of the Light. That game company's titles aren't always for everyone at first sight, but there's something about their gameplay systems and occasional multiplayer integration that makes them truly unique and recommendable as hell. In Flower's case, you're literally playing the life of a shriveled flower on a shelf, controlling a gust of wind that pollinates various flowers in flashback with an assortment of seeds. Yes, it's as self-indulgent, run-for-the-hills indie game premise as they come, but play Flower and you can't help but fall in love with it. That super short runtime helps, and there's something about willing all this luscious wildlife into being through a control scheme that apes most flight games that brings it all together. Number 3. Frog Fractions. Frog Fractions was made for a very specific age bracket, namely those circling 30 who remember a specific brand of educational software that was used when PCs were used to teach mathematics, science, etc. in primary and secondary school. Because on the face of it, Frog Fractions looks every bit like something designed to at least get various fractions into your head. Play for a few minutes though and you'll realize there's something else going on. Dive below the surface once your turtle is upgraded enough and you'll find all the fruit you missed beforehand, breaking the score counter at the top. From here, well, there's barely an old school game genre that developer Twinbeard doesn't pay homage to. Rhythm titles, text adventures, RPG dialogue systems, it's something else. And besides only taking half an hour to see, is all available for free. Number 2, Emily is Away. Another title laser targeted towards those who remember the furtive instant messaging days of MSN, AOL, or whatever you used circa the early 2000s, Emily is Away is also free and dives into the reality of adolescent crushes, invoking a retrospective tone of bittersweet honesty. Because look, we were all hopeless romantics once. There's something about Emily is Away casting you as this friend of a person you half wish to get closer to, only for those opportunities to forever slip through your fingers. No doubt this will resonate with some people in an incredibly personal way. Now, the only real gameplay here is picking dialogue options across a time period that spans high school to college. But how Emily is Away uses these interactions to cement an emotional and human final note is something you should seek out for yourself. Best of all, it only takes you 40 minutes to do so. And number 1, Short Hike. Short Hike is a game built for replayability. It's the kind of title that relishes in video games being a way for us to escape the mundanity of life, the harsher realities we occasionally find ourselves in, and as something that can still pack an out-of-nowhere emotional beat, the entire project comes across with supreme confidence. With an aesthetic and core feel sitting between Breath of the Wild and Animal Crossing, the only goal is to reach the peak of a mountain for a phone call, but it's up to you how long that takes. Items called feathers give you more stamina or glide time, and there's a minimum amount that you can obtain to reach the summit under an hour if you just want to get that out the way. The really fun stuff comes from acquiring all the feathers, talking to all the characters and indulging in every last game mechanic or conversation on offer. With character Claire just needing to get away from it all and holiday with her aunt for as long as you want to enjoy yourself, you're free to play beach volleyball for a high score, beat a runner at a time trial, or take out a speedboat for a few donuts. Breath of the Wild's satisfying sense of verticality is present and correct, and you can totally climb up the mountain I'm king of the world style, only to leap off and soar all the way back down to see your friends again. Maybe if we can't go for a real world holiday anytime soon, you can just take one right here. And those are my picks for various awesome games you can finish in under an hour. Let me know your favorites down in the comments below, and please check out the WhatCulture Gaming Podcast. We have 2 additional shows you can only listen to in audio form, so please get subscribed. For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com, and I'll catch you soon.